Thanks, everyone. I noticed there's a bunch of people in the back, so there are a number of seats if you guys want to come sit down. Most of these people don't bite. I'm pretty sure that's against the code of conduct. But anyway, quick introduction. I'm Michael Maxey. I'm the Technical VP of Business Development at ZEDEDA. I'm also the LF Edge board chair. And I'm joined today by Jim.
Hi, my name is Jim Teal. I'm a director of Cloud and Edge for product at Rockwell Automation in our software and controls division.
Cool. Thanks for joining, Jim. So, as part of LF Edge, I'm really excited about some of the growth, some of the new projects that Arpit was talking about this morning. I did want to highlight one tool. We call it the LF Edge Sandbox. And this is really sort of a dashboard and a one-click deployment for LF Edge projects. It's free to use. It's wide open. There's a QR code, so you can bust out your phone and go get a link to that right now. But we'd encourage you to sign up. This is a really great way to experiment with open source. So rather than spending your time standing up the project, with a few clicks you can deploy this project, connect it to your data flows, and start extracting value right away. So this is part of the LF Edge, and we're super excited about that.
That's awesome.
But let's get into Rockwell. Let's talk about sort of your strategy. And Rockwell, if you don't know, they're in the industrial automation space. They do a lot of work around transformation of OT, which is operational technology, not necessarily IT, and a long history in sort of automating that. So would love to hear, what's your strategy around Edge? It's obviously critical to sort of transforming these manufacturing environments, but what's your strategy around that?
Yeah, so the edge is really important in industrial automation, as it is kind of in most industries, but it has some peculiarities based off of where it is in the corporate network, how secure and how sometimes hard partitioned those networks are from the other networks in the business. And so in order to kind of get to that next level of connectivity, to get more access to capabilities that are kind of more native in the cloud and other parts of the business, a secure, well-curated, cloud-managed edge is a really key part of our strategy. And at the foundation of that, we see Eve from LF Edge as being a critical part of that solution. What it does is it brings a secure cloud-managed footprint to the edge where we can deploy multiple workloads on behalf of the customer to those edges.
Cool. Yeah, and if you don't know, Eve is part of LF Edge as well. It was, I guess, created by ZEDEDA and put into the LF Edge in 2018, open source project. So how is, you mentioned it's important. So how is it fit into your world, and how has it evolved as your vision has evolved?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we started to collaborate with ZEDEDA, we saw that we needed the ability to have a virtualized capability at the edge. Our industry, in many ways, has been slow to adopt new technologies. There's lots of dependencies on brownfield, things like Windows and other applications that have had a long legacy in the market. So not looking at how do we support that, but then also support the move towards containerization was a big part of our strategy for looking for a solution provider. And we found a great combination with ZEDEDA and Eve. And that combination of being able to get a customer along the path to containerization, but allowing us to run virtualized workloads on a well-managed cloud control plane is critical to our success.
So running legacy right alongside modern containers. Exactly.
And then what's also really been awesome as we've kind of had this shared vision of where we want to go is that at the beginning, as we were looking at Eve was virtualization first. And that really supports that strong story of we have a brownfield, we have a lot of historic capabilities that we need to continue to enable, but we need to really push more quickly to containerization. And as Eve transitions from virtualization first to Kubernetes first, we see that as aligning very well with our long-term vision and with where the industry is going in general.
Cool. No, very interesting. So last week at the Hanover Messe show in Hanover, Germany, there was an announcement of a new project, Project Margot, which also was referenced this morning in one of the keynotes as well. And you guys I know you were deeply involved with the creation of that.
Yes.
Obviously, Rockwell Automation was one of the founding companies of that. So can you share a little bit about what it is and maybe how that connects to your edge vision and your applications?
Yeah, so the idea of having the industrial edge being secure and well-managed and everything is great. If there aren't applications to run on the edge, It doesn't bring a lot of value,
Sure.
right? So, so the idea behind Margo, as we were collaborating with some of our competitors in the industry, right, is that how do we make sure that as we look at these industrial plants, as we look at the automation hardware and software that's in place, it is not always one vendor. We are interplaying with each other all of the time. And if we have an edge solution from one provider or another, we don't want the customer to have to implement another edge infrastructure to run our app, and other members don't want the same, right?
Sure.
So the idea is that in this market where it's been slow to adopt things like open source and Kubernetes, how do we reduce the friction so that our apps can be more portable, more manageable by this community that is less savvy of using these new technologies. And Margo is trying to solve some of those key problems, right? It's a combination of standards and some reference implementations that will help our adoption and help the market with having more app access on all of the Margo compatible edges.
Yeah, no, it's incredible to see that the group of logos. Like if you're not in the industrial space, you look at Schneider and ABB and Rockwell Automation. They're competitors, right? They like have been beating on each other for 40 to hundreds of years in this industry, but coming together in a standards-based way to build these templates, super interesting. We're excited to participate as well.
Yeah.
And we look forward to kind of rolling out some of those reference configurations.
And we do think it's pretty important, right? Because a well-managed edge without applications really doesn't bring any value.
Sure. Yeah. The apps bring the value. So we're at almost 7 minutes. You haven't mentioned AI yet. Let's talk a little bit about AI and how it fits into your sort of edge strategy and how Rockwell Automation thinks about it.
How is that even possible, right? So what we're seeing, right, is that the edge is an enabler for AI, right? So we really feel that we need that strong, secure edge to help our customers run advanced analytic apps at the edge and help enable that data to progress to the cloud. So, like I said, earlier, this idea of the Eve-based edge cloud control plane is kind of fundamental to then enabling all these other apps. With Margo, we add the ability for not only our added value AI apps to run, but also competitors to run. Their customers have their stuff run on that same edge. And in this world, what you're looking at is manufacturers that are trying to optimize costs, reduce downtime, and get smaller service windows so that they can get upgrades at a timely manner without the big downtimes. A service window in a plant that takes a plant down for hours or half a day for some of these operations can be millions and millions of dollars in lost revenue because they're not manufacturing, right? So we're happy to look at the edge and say, hey, we're getting to a point where by deploying Kubernetes to the edge, we can get you better CI/CD practices to get something deployed to the edge with less downtime. And we see that that's going to be necessary with AI apps at the edge, because a huge call for that need is looking at vision and scanning a product real time. And it could be a size of a pill, it could be a coffee pod, it could be a bottle, it could be anything. Looking at, is it filled properly? Does it have a defect? And if you have to stop the compute layer to do an upgrade for some amount of time, you're missing product or you're delaying manufacturing, and the startup and the ramp downs are too difficult to manage. So AI at the edge is critical, and we think we've got the infrastructure to help us get there.
Yeah, so Kubernetes is a different beast at the edge, right?
It is.
So if you think about cloud Kubernetes, they're very large clusters, thousands of nodes in a cluster with automatic failover, load balancing, all those sorts of things. What we see on the edge is a single node running a Kubernetes cluster and thousands or tens of thousands of locations. Right. So talk just quickly around that fundamental change. What does that mean as you're thinking about architecting Kubernetes out there? Yeah,
so the idea of the fleet of edges, and we could be talking about a customer that has thousands of edge devices, and each of those will ideally be running multiple applications. You now have a fleet of application instances that are running on those edges. And you want to get the latest inference model. You want to get the latest contextualization application down to the edge so that the whole life cycle of data management and through to machine learning and AI is available at the edge. And we have to really introduce how do you manage the fleet of applications, their configuration and their state, and that we think that's critical moving forward. And we think ZEDEDA helps us manage that.
Cool, awesome. Well, great conversation. Just want to say thank you and highlight a couple things. At the LF Edge booth, I think Arpit mentioned this earlier, really great demos. There's a bunch that bring a bunch of the LF Edge projects together. There's also, you can get an invitation. We're hosting an event tonight at 6:30 at the ZEDEDA office, so come by and have a beer. I think, Jim, you'll be there. You can meet us there. And then lastly, Eric Nordmark, our CTO, is talking about security at the edge around 12:10, so we encourage you to go to that session as well. But with that, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.